Hey guys, Mr. Adams here. Just want to cover a recap for you from last week about the basics of the First Amendment in case that you missed logging in for any of the live classes so far. Hopefully, most of this stuff was familiar, um, but this will just help serve to really reinforce what all this meant. So, when we were the British citizens in the colonies, as I was teaching you, while we were breaking up Britain, we had a lot of our freedoms and rights limited and then taken away when the king felt we were abusing them. Um, so when we were still colonies, you could not openly speak bad about the king. You could not publish literature or pamphlets that was openly questioning the style of government and suggesting that we had more rights. You could not try to go around and legally get signatures and petition the king or his governors for change. Like all this stuff was considered open rebellion, open dissent. When the king wanted supreme control, especially over a very rebellious colony, they literally just started hampering down on all these personal freedoms, and people were outraged. They wanted to be able to um, expressed why they did not like certain things that the king was doing or why they should have more freedoms or more representation. It got to the point where in Boston, after the Boston Tea Party, they were not allowed to even gather together anymore in groups of more than I don't know, it was like a small number, whatever you could fit in a household. So they took away the freedom of assembly, the ability to just get together because they figured if people were meeting, they were probably going to be conspiring. And so it's no wonder then that when we overthrew the British government, when we put in these guaranteed personal freedoms, the very first things we thought of were all those things that we felt every citizen going forward should have. We should have these freedoms. Um, and especially it was because we wanted to be able to express and call out our opinions on our leaders, even if they were bad opinions. We felt that everyone should be accountable in this country. So citizens should have the right to be able to call their leaders out or, anything like that. So there we go. Sorry. So the first most obvious one is freedom of speech, also expressed as freedom of expression. This is allowing you to speak your mind and opinion about something, or even be like wearing a design on a t-shirt, even to the extent of like burning the American flag, although that'd be highly offensive to a lot of people, still technically considered free speech, freedom of expression. Freedom of the press is similar to free speech and a little bit different. They both are under the umbrella of like expressing your opinion on something, but freedom of the press specifically deals with literature that's put out there as publicly accessible media. So, like if I write something in a newspaper or a tweet and I put a tweet out, I put a news report on national television, that's all considered press. So, the cartoon here is suggesting that free press in 2020 is in danger and that the wolves that are circling are all these world leaders who are very anti free press and trying to limit or censor their citizens from truly having access to uninterrupted coverage. And of course, you've got all these different countries being represented. Our little President Trump cartoon is just standing off watching. So he's not actively participating, but he's not stopping it either, as it shows these other countries um, characterized by wolves that are circling the free press as if they're going to take it down. Freedom of religion, obviously, one of the things our country was based on, the ability to worship in any way you feel is necessary, as well as having the option to not have worship. Freedom of religion is extremely important in this country. Definitely one of the things that we were built on. freedom of petition. This is common nowadays. If you guys have ever heard of a GoFundMe, where people ask for donations, or Kickstarter or change.org, these are common online petitions where people are looking for your signature to say that you agree with something. And if you gather a bunch of signatures, it holds a lot of weight or a lot of power. So we have the ability to petition our government for change, to basically put like a number of signatures together and maybe go to like a local state governor and say, here's 50,000 people who live in the state of New Jersey who all want to see this change. And these are all the people that like allowed their signature to be put on here. It's a strong statement. And so we have the ability to do that. And then the last one goes by two different names. Sometimes it's called freedom of assembly, sometimes it's freedom of protest. The ability to gather together in large groups. Usually you have to plan ahead of time, actually ask permission and get a permit for this. But if a state or town gives you permission, then you will legally be allowed to gather in these giant groups like this. And it could be a peaceful march. It could be a demonstration. It could also be, yes, a protest where you're going to have police there to keep the peace so that it doesn't get violent. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech famously was an organized assembly on the Washington lawn in Washington, D.C. But of the many things that you can do under the First Amendment, there are only a few, but there are a handful of things you cannot do and have it be protected under the First Amendment. Hate speech, openly negative towards different groups for different reasons. You cannot threaten someone and have that be protected as free speech. You can't cause a panic or a riot. And you can't be openly lying about someone in order to smear their reputation. So, like, I'll give you an example. I might say, I don't like the president, or you might even say, I hate the president, but you cannot say, I'm going to kill the president, because that would not be protected as free speech. That would be considered a threat. You can't go into a movie theater and scream out, fire, or I have a gun, and say, oh, I'm just joking, because you're causing panic. You're causing a riot. Same reason why you can't joke about having a bomb on a plane. That's not a joke. And I can't just go and print something in a news article where I'm openly lying about somebody else, trying to make them look bad with facts that aren't true. That's also not protected under free speech or free press. So hopefully that's been helpful, just as a recap of what the full facets of the First Amendment mean. And then I'll make another video covering the basics of Amendments 2 through 10. Come on.